So I work for Fox Factory.
Nice.
So they're high performance, top of the line race shocks for off-roading. And yeah, it's pretty interesting
Uh-huh.
because yeah, there's a culture and then there's a brand. So we need to take all that into consideration with everything we're doing, right? Because we want to maintain, this company's been around for almost 50 years now.
Wow.
So yeah, it's got this reputation that was developed by the first guy, Bob Fox, and we want
Mm-hmm.
to maintain it, since then and moving forward. So it's really, really interesting to have that mentality and that culture and kind of take it on and take it to whoever you talk to and stuff. It's pretty cool.
Now, were you always a car guy, and then you jumped onto here, and that just gave you more knowledge of cars, or are you becoming like a because well, not really a car guy, right? Because they do like motorcycles, they do cars, they do trucks,
Right.
ATVs. Are you involved more in the automotive stuff part of it now?
I wasn't ever before, like I wasn't like a gearhead or anything.
Yeah.
Um, but recently, just with how they are, they're in a lot of racing, off-roading and stuff, so I've been getting more into it recently, and there was this documentary that was on Netflix
Oh, really?
called Drive to Survive.
Uh-huh.
That got me into Formula One, and then that
Oh.
just like broke everything open. Like once I watched that documentary and got into it, I was just like, yeah, this is awesome. So I don't really watch a lot of off-roading stuff because we don't they're like tough to find. You need like
Um,
cable and stuff,
yes.
and we don't have it right now. So I've just been watching Formula One mostly, and getting more into cars and stuff like racing
Right.
sims and stuff, and trying to find out like the differences between the different things and everything. It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, and I would imagine that you would have an advantage, right? Because you see it, and then when you go out, like, because do you guys also manufacture, or is it just like you just it's a selling or an assembly line, and you just sell to the customers?
It's assembly, pure assembly.
Mm.
We do some manufacturing, but not at my factory.
Mm.
So yeah, it's kind of like Boeing. We get all the parts in, and then we put it all together, and then we ship it off. We don't make anything
Mm.
necessarily, but it's pretty interesting for at least for me because in this industry you get to really put your hands on and like feel what's
Mm-hmm.
going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the shock is like so direct to your car, right? So you can see where your part goes and you could feel it performing the way that you intended, which is pretty cool. Whereas in other industries, you might not get a chance to do that. So it's a little more
Right.
hands-on and more like tactile, I guess you could say. You can actually see where your work is going. I
Right.
pass by some stores every now and then because it's getting more popular,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see like vehicles with our shocks on it, and
Oh,
like
really?
if I wanted to, I can go up and see like when it was made and stuff and see if like I was the one that touched it, or depending on the vehicle model sometimes too. If it's a newer model, then for sure it went through the factory and I probably saw it get built, and then seeing it on the vehicle there is pretty surreal. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And then do you get to see is there testing done on it?
Um, there is I don't get to see all of it though because some of it gets handled by a different facility.
Oh, okay. It's like a
But
testing facility that just focuses on that.
right, yeah,
Okay.
like destructive tests and all that different kind of thing.
Right.
I don't get to see that because that's just a completely different environment, right? Their sole purpose is to test, and mine isn't necessarily. Like I still have other things to do. So yeah, not all the time, but I have been there before, and it's pretty cool.
Nice. So what do you usually check? What can go wrong with the spring?
Lots of stuff.
Really?
Well, there is lots of stuff that can go wrong, but obviously, like we take care of it just because we have so much experience. So there's
Right.
not a lot of things that our customers feel, so to say. We try and fix all that stuff so that it's only like one in a million, right?
Right.
Um, but the worst thing I've seen is if something on the inside tears apart or fails, then the shock basically blows up, and it's a piece of metal like rod, like
Right.
you can, if you picture like my water bottle here,
Uh-huh.
you could see a cut along the side where it just bursts and all the oil
Oh,
comes out. It's the
right.
worst.
Yeah.
That's like the worst case scenario. But usually those are due to like crashes or like critical failures, or the shocks are just old beyond their life cycle. Those kind of things are really, really rare. Like I said, I've only seen one
Oh,
maybe
really? Oh,
since
that's
since
good.
I've been there. Yeah, and
Right.
maybe a few more from testing, but the tests are designed to do that to the shock, so we know when it happens, right?
Right. And then are, are you guys so you do put some of the engineer part, right?
Right.
Is there like any new incoming projects that are like stuff that we never seen before, or is it just making them more durable, more powerful and stuff like that?
Um, there is some newer stuff. Some of the newer stuff that we just released is like really high end. So there's a vehicle called the Polaris, the Razor, and they
Oh,
have I
and that's
forget
like
what they
for like
call it.
off-roading, right?
Yeah, and what they have is they have a mechanical valve in there, and it's semi-active. So
Mhm.
instead of you going down there and stopping the vehicle and turning a knob to get it softer or harder, you can adjust it from a computer in the dash.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there's another vehicle by BRP, the BRP Maverick, and they call it Smart Shocks, and they have similar tunability. So instead of lots of the vehicles, the majority of the vehicles, you have to get out of the vehicle and tune them before you ride or during your ride. But these two vehicles are really special in that you can do that from your dash, and it receives the feedback as you ride, and it makes adjustments depending on whether you go off of little jumps or you're taking it off a hill, and you don't want your shocks to bottom out and hit metal to metal. So it makes that
Right.
adjustment for you on the fly. It's pretty awesome stuff. And obviously there's other stuff that they're developing, but we can't talk about. But there's lots of really interesting stuff coming down the pipeline too.